28 Days Later, from director Danny Boyle and writer Alex Garland, thrusts you into a ravaged London, 28 days after a lab virus escaped containment, leaving the streets silent and civilization on the brink. Jim, a bicycle courier, awakens from a coma to empty avenues, and then he discovers the real nightmare. They didn't seep from tombs. They poured out of living bodies fueled by an all-consuming fury. In 28 Days Later, the infected aren't undead. They're living predators hijacked by a pathogen that runs on pure, unfiltered rage. The rage virus doesn't just kill the body, it rewires the mind. Unleashed by a bungled lab experiment, the aerosolized pathogen crashes into your amygdala, igniting panic neurons and collapsing empathy. Seconds after exposure, you're a hunter driven by one primal instinct: to kill. Stage 1 is incubation fever flares, pulse races, thoughts splinter. You're still conscious, but every impulse screams for violence. The true horror? You know what's happening, and there's nothing left of you to stop it. Then comes the frenzy. Muscles coil, vision narrows, and you sprint through shattered streets with a drumbeat of slaughter. You don't think, you don't hesitate. Flesh rips. Bone cracks. Mercy died with your last rational thought. Exhaustion follows carnage. You collapse as life seeps out of you. Survivors stitch wounds and arm themselves with makeshift armor, trusting no one because any human face could be the next monster. Cities lie silent beneath blood-red dawns. Sirens fade into memory. In 28 Days Later, the rage, infected aren't the finale, they're humanity's opening salvo. Rage is the contagion and there is no cure. Hereditary, from writer-director Ari Aster, doesn't summon restless spirits. It conjures the weight of blood and grief inherited across generations, turning family ties into a living nightmare. It doesn't begin with a poltergeist knocking at the door. It starts with a funeral, the hush of overcast skies, Annie Graham carving miniature chairs by her mother's casket. That quiet grief lodges in your bones, foreshadowing horrors born not of haunted houses but of haunted lineage. Annie Graham is our guide into this curse, a dollhouse artisan. She fashions perfect rooms even as her own world fractures. Each miniature becomes a shrine to memories better left buried. Birthdays, vacations, the gentle hum of a childhood long gone. Charlie moves through that miniature world like a silent omen. Her dark eyes flicker with uncanny stillness, her tongue clicking in secret rhythms. She speaks of birds and shadows, as if she hears voices no one else can, an early whisper of the ritual concealed in her blood. When tragedy erupts in a single snap, Charlie's life ending in an instant, the film pivots. Domestic comfort shatters, guilt blooms like rot, and the Graham home becomes a crucible of mourning and obsession. Peter drifts through this waking nightmare, hollow-eyed and haunted by voices that call his name. His survivor's guilt hollows him out until Paimon, the infernal king of legacies, holds court in his veins. In the final act, Annie convulses beneath a crown of straw and flame, worshipping the very curse she sought to escape. Peter ascends an impossible staircase to claim a throne he never wanted. Hereditary's true horror lies in that final tableau, the realization that some inheritances, once awakened, can never be laid to rest. Terrifier, directed by Damien Leone, isn't built on suspense or subtle scares. It is a brutal parade of violence led by a clown who does not speak, does not blink, and never stops smiling. Art the Clown is not a killer. He is a performance, a living nightmare in grease paint and black and white clothes, silent and unblinking as he turns every victim into a twisted masterpiece. There is no curse, no haunting, no origin story, just a night, a rundown street, two girls crossing paths with something they should not have looked at twice. Art's stare is not just creepy, it is a contract. Once he marks you, there is nowhere left to run. Bathrooms, warehouses, alleyways. He hunts through places we trust to be safe, and he never hurries. That is what makes him terrifying. He is slow, calculated, amused. His kills are not random. They are precise. The hacksaw, the scalpel, the tools he drags behind him are not weapons. They are instruments. Every scream becomes part of his act. One girl is mutilated. Another is toyed with. Another is dressed in someone else's skin. Art paints his horror across every surface, and the camera never cuts away. There is no survival arc. No heroic comeback. Just panic, isolation, silence. He does not speak, but he laughs, not with sound, but with expression, a mime of murder. His head tilts, his eyes widen, and you know you are next. Even death feels uncertain. You shoot him, he gets up, you stab him, he smiles wider. His body collapses, but his presence lingers. Terrifier does not explain what he is because it does not need to. Art is horror stripped to its rawest form. No motive, no history, just a grin and a knife. And when the night ends and the blood dries, Art the Clown is still out there somewhere waiting for the next stage, the next scream, the next face to twist into fear. He is not a villain, he is a show, and the show never stops. The Purge, directed and written by James DeMonaco, plunges viewers into a society sanctioning all crime for 12 relentless hours. During the Purge, every law dissolves homicide, burglary, arson, and citizens become both hunters and hunted. Streets once familiar warp into labyrinths of fear beneath neon glows and howling sirens, revealing the raw undercurrents of human nature. The economically desperate scavenge weapons and simulate rebellion. Wealth and power fuse into violence as the social contract evaporates. The night's ritual exposes systemic fractures, turning neighbors into adversaries under a perfidious civic veneer. As midnight descends, each echo through empty streets sends pulses of adrenaline through tightly wound nerves. The hush before chaos becomes almost deafening. Every heartbeat and distant scream merges into a symphony of dread, a countdown to moral collapse. Negotiations erupt at threshold doors, demands, bribes, and threats exchanged with chilling civility.
This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge sanctioned by the U.S. government. Weapons of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use during the purge. All other weapons are restricted. Government officials of ranking 10 have been granted immunity from the purge and shall not be harmed. Commencing at the siren, any and all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 continuous hours. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable until tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. when the purge concludes. Blessed be our new founding fathers and America, a nation reborn. May God be with you all.
When sirens wail, their final note at dawn, gates reopen to a terrain strewn with bodies and broken promises. Neighbors greet each other with hollow courtesy, their eyes reflecting guilt and relief. The Purge holds a mirror to societal extremes, probing the fractures between security and cruelty, privilege and desperation. As law recedes and fear reigns, it asks, what price will we pay for order, and how thin is the line that separates us from savagery when humanity is unshackled under neon skies? A Nightmare on Elm Street, written and directed by Wes Craven, transforms the most innocent refuge sleep into a battleground where fear takes form. In suburban Springwood, Ohio, closing your eyes summons a burning specter with a razor glove and a grin of pure malice. Every blink invites the promise of a nightmare that kills. Frederick Charles Krueger's origin is a nightmare in itself. His mother, Sister Amanda Krueger, was locked overnight in a mental asylum and violated by inmates, earning him the title Bastard Son of 100 Maniacs. Abandoned to an abusive foster father, young Freddy repurposed a straight razor to murder in adolescence. As an adult, he became the Springwood slasher, stalking children in a boiler room with a homemade glove. A legal loophole freed him, but vengeful parents burned him alive. Dream demons seized his dying rage, binding him to the realm of sleep. In dreams, Krueger reshapes reality. Hallways stretch into blood-soaked corridors, mirrors shatter into mocking smiles, floors become gaping voids. His fedora and striped sweater gleam beneath flickering lights as his razor fingers slice flesh. Wounds inflicted in nightmares bleed into waking bodies, cementing his unstoppable dominion over both realms. A close-knit group of Elm Street teenagers becomes his next prey. Nancy Thompson senses the threat as friends report raspy laughter beneath doors and fingertips scraping under walls. Desperate to survive, they wage an all-night war on sleep, coffee, pills, and vigil patrols. Paranoia unravels bonds as exhaustion lures them back into Krueger's realm. In a climactic dreamscape, they lure Freddy into a collapsing boiler room of the subconscious. Fire and collective conviction strip him of power as the walls melt and shadows convulse. Nancy and her allies defy his torment with unwavering will and incinerate his form before dawn. When morning arrives, survivors awaken, bleary-eyed to silent streets and fractured nerves. Sleep returns as bittersweet relief, haunted by Freddy's echoing cackle. A Nightmare on Elm Street forces us to ask, when nightmares cross into reality, how do you escape the monster born from your deepest fears? Ring, directed by Hideo Nakata and written by Hiroshi Takahashi, opens on static dancing across a black screen, an invitation into Sadako's world. From the murky depths of an abandoned well, Sadako Yamamura's vengeance seeps like poisoned water. Born with a gift that warped reality, she was betrayed by fear and superstition, thrown into darkness where life withered. There, rage fermented into a living virus, encoding her will into every frame of film. The cursed videotape unfurls in flickering snapshots, pale limbs floating in water, a broken swing clattering in an empty yard, and a grainy spiral that pulls the eye inward. Each image is a thread in Sadako's tapestry of despair. The climactic horror arrives as she crosses the breach between celluloid and flesh. Television sets reverse their role, acting as gateways. The screen shatters like glass beneath her weight as she drags herself forward, water cascading from her tangled hair, her face distorted. Triumphant splashes into grainy focus, and the room floods with her silent scream. When daylight comes, survivors wake with eyes blurred by black tears, the taste of brine on their their tongues. Their phones and laptops lie dormant. Sadako's curse endures in that space between frame and fallout. She is the dread that lingers once the tape has ended, the shadow behind closed lids, the pulse in empty rooms. Watching may be optional, but escape has never been possible. Hannibal, directed by Ridley Scott, unveils the cultured terror of Dr. Hannibal Lecter, one of fiction's most elegant monsters. From his aristocratic roots to his nocturnal feasts, every frame drips with refined horror. Born into Lithuanian nobility in 1933, young Hannibal's world shattered when Nazi deserters butchered and cannibalized his beloved sister, Misha. Orphaned and mute from trauma, he was rescued by Soviet troops and sent to an orphanage in his family's ruined castle. There, relentless bullying forged his first code: punish only those who prey on the weak. His first calculated kill came when a village butcher insulted his guardian aunt Murasaki. Hannibal repaid the slight with ritual precision, carving and consuming his victim's cheeks as homage to justice and his lost sister. Decades later, Dr. Lecter thrives as a brilliant psychiatrist in Florence and Baltimore. His clinic doubles as a hunting ground. Victims arrive wounded, but depart in caskets. In candlelit libraries and ornate dining rooms, Hannibal orchestrates murders with surgical artistry. He toys with FBI agent Clarice Starling, offering cryptic counsel as she hunts the Chesapeake Ripper, unaware the true monster sits in mirrored silence beside her. His cannibalistic dinner parties redefine fine dining, each course a biting commentary on manners and morality. Hannibal merges psychological thriller with visceral gore. It asks, can civilization truly contain a mind that tastes humanity as ambrosia? From orphan child to cultured cannibal, Lecter's origin binds elegance to atrocity, proving that the deadliest monsters wear tailored suits and dine in candlelight, and that true horror lies in the refinement of the savage heart. Poltergeist, directed by Tobe Hooper and produced by Steven Spielberg, slams the front door on a quiet suburban life. In a Freeling family, dad Steve, mom Diane, teenage Dana, 10-year-old Robbie, and little Carol Ann moves into a new house in Cuesta Verde, California. The streets are clean, the lawns are green, and everything looks perfect. But under their yard lies an old cemetery that was covered over, not moved. At first, strange things happen. Toys move by themselves, doors open and close, and Carol Ann talks to empty rooms. Then more dangerous events follow. The big tree in the yard seems to grab at Robbie, and silverware bends like soft metal. During a wild storm, Carol Ann disappears into her bedroom closet, sucked through a glowing television screen into another world. The Freelings call in parapsychologist Dr. Lesh and her team, but nothing can get Carol Ann back. Finally, medium Tangina Behrens arrives. She chants and moves around their living room, giving Diane a rope. Diane steps through the flickering portal, follows Tangina's voice, and rescues Carol Ann in a tunnel of moving walls and slimy goo. Just when they think it is over, unseen forces destroy the house, pulling it into a sinkhole of flashing lights and flying debris. The Freelings flee the rubble and vow never to return. Poltergeist shows that even the safest homes can hide dangerous secrets, and some doors, once opened, never close quietly.